hello. I'm going to show you how to stitch leather. So this is part of the wallet that I'm making. Well, the 2 wallets I'm making. This is the finish piece. I have to make 4 of them, and then those are going to go onto the backs of these 2. But then I have to kind of do some artistic shit with this, because all this is not laser cut, but I used a Silhouette, which is like a vinyl cutting machine, and you just they have its own program where you go in and take an image and then mark what you want to cut, and then there's a little like piece like this big, like a nub like this with a knife at the end of it, like an X-Acto blade, that you can measure the millimeters. I don't even think it's millimeters, it's like decameters or something, smaller than millimeters, on how far the blade descends. And so you can cut into, typically it's used for vinyl, but all I did was just slap leather pieces on there and cut these out. I did this like 3 or 4 years ago because I used to be really into it, but I haven't really done it lately. These are just leftovers that I have, and they're in the perfect size of a billfold. So then what you do is you get a fucking pattern. So this is a billfold, a bifold wallet pattern, and it's probably like $3 on Etsy, or it came with a pack of something. Anyway, so I've made 2 of these already, right? So I have to stitch these pockets. I have to start with this one, then do this one, then do the last one. And every time I have to go in and not only like, here, focus on this. I have to not only go in and cut this whole edge. I use this blade, it's called skeeving, but you have to cut it to thin it down, otherwise it's all going to be like thicker than this. Anyway, so the next part of this process is stitching these pockets on. So stitching is something that is really fucking annoying when it comes to leather, but it's kind of, you have to do it. Well, I learned this way to kind of stitch indefinitely, and the basics, kind of this setup, because you need a good setup to be able to do it effectively, is you take your, I'm going to have to make one of these anyway, again, but take your length of, this is Ritza Tiger Thread, and it's 8mm width, dark gray or black, 100-meter spool. This is the best stuff to use for hand stitching, just hands down. Just go buy it on Amazon if you're going to do it, or if like Tandy has it, if you have a local Tandy, they have it. Any other thread is not worth using. This is the specific thread that you have to use to make really good flat stitch, if you're not going to use a machine. But a machine is like the one I have is a Tippmann Boss, which is they're a pneumatic company, so they make that, which is a pneumatic hand stitcher. You just, I have to use that for like belts and stuff, things that are really, really heavy and have a lot of stitches, take a lot of time. Anyway, so you want a thread length that's 3 times what you're going to stitch. But the reason is because what I'm stitching is probably like 2 or 3 millimeters, so it's kind of negligible when it comes to eating up stitch length. The stitch length you're worried about is the actual length of what you have punched in. So what you do is, I punched all these in with this. It's just a 4mm, I guess. I have the spacing is actually extremely wide for most projects. This one I used to have, I bought a really fancy one and then I fucking butchered it. So this was a fancy one. Every single one of these had another tooth in the middle, and I broke them off and filed them down because it was so annoying to have to do so many stitches. And every stitch you do is putting a weakness in the actual leather itself. So you really don't want to do too many, because if you do too many, it's like ripping perforated paper like out of a notebook, where you fold it and just because it is that way because it has so many holes. So the more holes you put, weakens the integrity of the leather. So anyway, then I'm going to get my needles, and I can show you how to do the needles after, because right now they're all set up, and the only way to take them off is to cut them off. So I gotta use this, but put them both in at the same time so that it meets in the middle like this. Okay, so then one is going to drape over your finger, the one that's the next one, because we're going this way. So hold it with your fingers, and you hold it like this, and all you got to do is make sure it's tight, and then you thread that bitch right back in there. Pull it tight, because you want tension on every single deal. Now the other way to stitch is you have to have it like down on the ground, and you, or in a horse, and a horse is like this whole contraption where it's a fucking wood piece with a claw that clamps together and it keeps it in place. But you can do that, but for something like this, like I can just keep it in my hands. So then we're gonna make sure we still got tension. All you do is put that needle right back in there. Yep. And now we're just gonna keep moving along. You want to make sure the first three are like real tight, and sometimes you want to double up on the first one or two. Since this is so thin, and I'm valuing the thinness of the leather all stacked together because there's so many pieces stacked together. There's going to be 4 pieces of leather. Every piece just adds mass that you have to deal with. And I don't want any like big lumps in it either. I want it to remain flat. So I'll show this again. You just push this in this way, you come back out, and then drop it over your finger. Grab the one that just dropped, the one that was left, you pick up and you put back in. And so this way you kind of always have tension on your left hand. Your left hand is always holding something, and your right hand is kind of more precise. So you just get into a rhythm of it, and you can just hang out. But I abhorred hand stitching until I learned this method, because this is the, at least from what I can find and from other more credible sources than me, like people who are like real industry giants, this is the way to go. It's one of those like secret techniques that if you don't know, like it's an unwritten rule. Well, it's written now, but one of those techniques that you learn early on, and it just makes everything so much easier. So I kind of underestimated the thickness, and I'm getting really tight. I'm about to lose access to actually using the fucking holes, because the idea is that like you want to go as long as you can, just so you don't have to reset everything. But alright, so now I'm at the end. What am I going to do now? Just cut them off pretty close. You can use snippers or just an X-Acto blade. But pretty close, but not too close. That was too close. I actually have to deal with that one now. My go-tos are a jet lighter, like a big, but it actually makes a jet flame instead of the propane lighter, or I have this thing, which is a plasma arc lighter, and so it damages the leather less when you burn it, but all you got to do is burn it down and then squish it with your finger, and then that wax and thread melt and make like a little cap in the piece right here. And then you're going to do the same thing here, but not cut it as short. So like that. That's a good length, brother. Okay. I'm such a boomer. Anyway, this length, you just use a lighter. And I say a jet lighter because, like, if you use a normal butane lighter, I don't have one on me, but if you use a normal one, it fucking catches all the hair that's on the back of the leather on fire. And it just stinks and it leaves like a black mark. So you want to not damage the leather like that. It really, in all honesty, doesn't do anything, and it'll go away pretty quickly with wear of the leather itself. But it's just unprofessional in my opinion. So I kind of started running out of that thread, and I wish I would have done 4 lengths instead of 3, and that would have left me with like more waste thread that I just throw away. But I would be more comfortable stitching it because it would be longer, and as I get to the end, it's not like tightening up my technique, because you can be doing it perfectly and then the consumable that you're using, which is the thread, will start slowing down because you don't have as much of it anymore. You don't have what you have to work with. So anyway, this is how I'll show you how to reset the needles. So take the threads off. You're just going to cut them, and you can cut them at the base of the needle because the needle is steel. So you just slide it along there, and then take the thread. The cool thing about the thread is it's manufactured to lay flat as it comes off the roll. So a really neat thing to do is you take it and just use your thumbnail and kind of get a little bit of the wax off of there, but also flatten that thread more. And then you pull it through about that much and pierce it with the needle. Pull that thread down like that, and then you just pull this back over the needle and then tighten it up, and it's not going to go anywhere. If you don't do that, which I will do one aside not doing that, you just let it go free, it gets kind of annoying because it'll start falling off. It's just not going with the flow. So anyway, also I'm a proponent of hammering your fucking edges and then burning them afterwards. So smack this bitch, and then just light it on fire a little bit. Like that is perfect. And all you're doing is melting the wax that's on the thread so that it goes into the leather and seals it. Because all of this is flesh. It's all like, you don't want like water and stuff, because this is going to be in somebody's pocket, so it's going to be exposed to sweat. Speaking of which, I have my old one. This is a cool comparison. So this is a brand new veg tan wallet with leather. This is one that's been in a pocket for like 3 years, and it's that dark mahogany brown, and that was achieved with no dyes. So the leather is going to last like forever. It's like self-dyeing almost. It's also turning really black because it's getting exposed to iron constantly because I'm a welder. But anyway, adios. I love you.